Hey everybody, it's Pastor Greg. It is miracle time here at CSC. Some of you may already know this month we are focusing on A Course in Miracles, using this text this month to grow and expand, to renew our minds. Last week, Pastor Yolanda brought us a powerful message, and there's more to come. Additionally, this month, on March 29th, we are excited because we're celebrating our second anniversary, our second birthday, and we want you here in the place to celebrate this magnificence with us and to celebrate your magnificence and significance. The following Sunday, we have Easter Sunday, and for the month, we're going to be looking at the lotus and the lily. We're going to be looking at Buddha and Jesus and the powerful connection between their teachings. I promise you it's something that you don't want to miss. Additionally, I'd like to announce that I have officially launched my Facebook page today, and we would love for you to go on to Facebook and like the page. Additionally, I'm blogging throughout the week, and so I'm offering lots of different thoughts and ideas that will support you as you move throughout your week. Again, there's so much going on at CSC, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Let's get into today's message. We think we have to act a certain way, we have to dress a certain way, we have to be a certain way, we have to date this person or work at this job in order to get miracles. But if we don't have to do that for the air we breathe, I have news for you. You don't have to do that for the miracles that you seek. You don't have to do that for the miraculous experiences that you want to experience in your life. Good morning, Celebration Spiritual Center. How are you feeling? Beautiful, beautiful. I am excited about life. I hope that you are too, because there's just so much to be excited about. So we're just going to jump right in. Last week, Pastor Yolanda opened us up with our new series, Renew Your Mind, based on A Course in Miracles, and she gave us the message, there's got to be another way. And she talked to us about mind, meaning, and miracles. Again, giving us that wonderful idea that miracles are natural, that miracles are our birthright, and we thank God that miracles are natural, right? Because how else would we experience it? If it was about never making a mistake, has anybody in the room ever made a mistake? If we had to be perfect in order to get miracles, if we had to be perfect in order to receive the miraculous, or in order for things to change and shift in our lives, we'd all be in trouble. But thank God it's not about that. There was something else that Pastor Yolanda shared last week that I wanted to zoom in on that I love. That A Course in Miracles says, an untrained mind accomplishes nothing. And the heart of what A Course in Miracles is about, it's mind training. It's renewing our mind, making our minds new. There are things that we thought before, that we believed before, that are creating the life that we're experiencing. We need to change that. We need to renew our minds. I work in IT, we need to wipe our hard drives and reinstall the operating system. That's what we need to do, right? And so when we understand that it's mind training, when we understand that maybe our minds are playing tricks on us, what I want to talk about today is we need to recognize the need for the mind training, because we've been living life the way we've been living life, and our lives may reflect what our parents' lives were, and our lives may reflect what our friends' lives are, and our lives may seem to be just like everybody else's, but we're not happy. Right? Something about our life, we feel like there's more. And so, as Pastor Yolanda talked about mind, meaning, and miracles last week, I want to talk about seeing. And I want to kind of use a few of the lessons out of the first 50 to zoom in on that. So, the first 3 lessons in A Course in Miracles say this: nothing I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place, means anything. Nothing I see means anything. The second lesson says this: I have given everything I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place, all the meaning that it has. The third lesson goes on and it says, I do not understand anything I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Now, just with these first 3 lessons, this is why A Course in Miracles can be jarring. This is why many, one of the most famous teachers that teaches based on A Course in Miracles, Marianne Williamson, she talks about in Return to Love how she picked it up and then put it back down for many, many years. Because what does this mean? Nothing that I see in this room means anything. I have given everything in the room, or everything I see, the meaning that it has, and then I don't even understand what I'm looking at. But then there's a couple other lessons that I want to use here. Lesson 7 says, I see only the past. And then lesson 29 says, God is in everything I see. And lesson 30 says, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And Pastor Yolanda has shared the topic for today, I can't believe my eyes. And so we're going to talk again about seeing, about this idea that we have to recognize what the need is. And we're going to talk about how your eyes, as the Course in Miracles says, that nothing that we see means anything, and we don't even understand what we're actually looking at. We can't believe our eyes. Now, just taking where we are right now in this time, on March 20th, the end of this week, will be the first day of spring. But based on what we see, or even what we feel, right, there's not, I think we're not going to experience snow, but just north of us, they're going to be getting a big snowstorm. There's still remnants of snow outside, yes. We're still wearing winter coats. We haven't really broke out the jackets yet and the wonderful spring colors and the t-shirts and all that. We haven't done that yet, right? So based on what we're seeing, based on what our eyes are showing us, that feedback, that information, it's not telling us that spring is near, yes? But yet we know that spring is near. Yet we know, based on where the sun's location is, because that's all that it means in terms of spring, based on the sun's location, the vernal equinox, right, when we have equal day and equal night, then it's spring. We know that. That's a fact, right? It's measurable. But yet our eyes do not necessarily verify that fact, right? So we know that we can't believe our eyes. Now, I want to take it a little deeper. There's something interesting. I'm sure many of us who, were on Facebook and you saw the debate about the dress with the colors, the, blue and black versus gold and white. And what's interesting, that's was very controversial for a lot of people, but I want to take part of that and dig into it a little deeper. When we look at and think about the color blue itself, that actually human beings have not seen the color blue for a very long time in terms of human history, and there's a reason for that. I'll share this with you. About 150 years ago, a British scholar named William Gladstone was studying Homer's The Odyssey, and he noticed that the poet had some unconventional descriptions for color. For instance, honey was described as green, while iron was called violet. However, no mention of blue existed. Similar investigations into ancient texts of a number of other languages were also missing any mention of the word blue. In fact, the first mention of blue wasn't found in any language until about 4,500 years ago. Was it possible that they weren't able to perceive it as we do now? The word blue just didn't even exist. And then what's interesting, honey, Homer called honey green. Is honey green? Iron was called violet. Perception, right? But then what's even more interesting, it goes on. Psychologist Jules Davidoff traveled to Namibia in order to conduct an experiment with the Himba tribe. Their language has no distinct word for blue. And when they were asked to choose a blue square amongst a group of green squares, they had extreme difficulty. And we'll share this picture on Facebook. You'll see it right away. It's obvious. There's a blue square and there's a bunch of green squares. But they don't have the word blue in their language, so they couldn't see it. Now, what's even more interesting, the flip of the experiment was that given to us who we know what blue is, but we only have one word for green, those of us who have that perspective were given different patches of green. One shade of green was slightly different. And we were those in the experiment were asked to pick the one that was slightly different. And many people had a difficult time picking that out because green is just green. That's what our language teaches us. But those that were a part of this tribe from Namibia, when they were given that same image, they actually have many words for green to describe the subtleties of green. They could immediately pick out the subtle green, but they couldn't see blue because they don't have a word for that. Look at somebody and say, I can't believe my eyes. Now, if that's not enough, let's look at it from this perspective. Let's think about court cases. Let's think about eyewitness testimonies, right? It would seem that if I was standing on the corner and someone was murdered, that because I'm standing there and watching it, that I should be able to tell the story as it happened and, immediately make sure that the murderer goes to jail for what he or she did, right? Right? But what we've come to know and understand is that eyewitness testimony is actually the most unreliable. There's a statistic, this is from 2009 from the Innocence Project. And if you don't know what the Innocence Project is, it was started by Alan Dershowitz, of course, famous lawyer here in New York. And the Innocence Project has really been the forerunner of using DNA to exonerate primarily African-American males from convictions, wrong convictions, right? And so there's this statistic from 2009 that says 73% of the 239 convictions that were overturned through DNA testing were based on eyewitness testimony. 1/3 of these overturned cases rested on the testimony of 2 or more mistaken witnesses. 73% were based on eyewitness testimony. People who said, I was standing there and I saw this and this is what, and it was him. DNA proved otherwise, right? Interesting. Now, the article that I got this from, it goes on to say this. The uncritical acceptance of eyewitness accounts may stem from a popular misconception of how memory works. Many people believe that human memory works like a video recorder. The mind records events and then, on cue, plays back an exact replica of them. On the contrary, psychologists have found that memories are reconstructed rather than played back each time we recall them. Hear that again. On the contrary, psychologists have found that memories are reconstructed rather than played back each time we recall them. The act of remembering, says eminent memory researcher and psychologist Elizabeth F. Lotus of the University of California, Irvine, says it's more akin to putting puzzle pieces together than retrieving a video recording. Even questioning by a lawyer can alter the witness's testimony because fragments of the memory may unknowingly be combined with information provided by the questioner, leading to an inaccurate recall. Interesting. That memory, we're not actually pulling back, like putting in a DVD and playing the movie again. We're recalling it. I'm trying to find my word again. The memories are reconstructed, which means that reconstructed means recreating or creating again. When we remember something, remember, putting our members back together, we're creating a new story, a new puzzle every time. This is why you never tell a story the same way every time, right? Why is that? Because we can't. When we remember something, we're actually taking all of these pieces and bringing it back together in a different way, right? So what I began to think about when we think of A Course in Miracles being mind training, when A Course in Miracles is inviting us to look at this idea that we can't believe our eyes, what I believe is that A Course in Miracles is our very own spiritual innocence project. Because what I believe is that we have stood as the eyewitnesses. We have stood on the stand of our life. We are the judge, the jury, and the prosecuting attorney. And we have stood there on the stand and said, yes, Your Honor, Greg Stamper is unworthy and undeserving. I was there and I saw it. Yes, Your Honor, Greg Stamper is poor and limited. We have stood there and accused ourselves of something that is absolutely untrue. But thank God for the Innocence Project. Thank God for A Course in Miracles, which is here to train our minds, to renew our minds to the possibility that maybe we're innocent. That is here to renew our minds to the possibility that maybe we are sinless. That is here to renew our minds to the possibility of forgiveness. Because we know the truth that when we forgive ourselves and when we forgive others, then we find freedom. I love that A Course in Miracles speaks to that when we're holding unforgiveness, we are also the jailer, which means we have to be in the prison with the person that we have put them in. But again, I say thank God for the Innocence Project that allows us to free ourselves by renewing our minds. Say it again to somebody. I can't believe my eyes. I can't believe my eyes. So what are we seeing? What are we seeing and how are we seeing it? A Course in Miracles says this: your picture of the world can only mirror what is within. The source of neither light nor darkness can be found without. So often we think that this world outside of us is the real world. A Course in Miracles is very clear. It just says it's all an illusion. Nothing real exists. Nothing unreal exists. Nothing real can be threatened. Herein lies the peace of God. Right? Nothing real can be threatened. The only thing that can be threatened is this stuff outside of us. And because we have associated or attached ourselves with that stuff outside of us, that's when we become fearful. That's when we start to think that we're limited. We start to think that we're small. And so it takes me back to that lesson number 7 that I shared earlier. I see only the past. So what are we seeing? This thing that's coming from within, what are we seeing? We're seeing past ideas that may have come from our family or may have come from television or something that we learned. We're seeing past thoughts, past memories, past solutions. Which I think is very interesting because so often we're still trying to do the same thing that was done 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago when it has no bearing on now. And we have to remind ourselves, that's why we say, nothing that I see means anything. I don't know how to approach this problem. I don't know how to approach this new thing that's going on in my life. I have to start from that place because if I think that I know, then I've already limited the possibilities. I've already shrunk infinite possibility into about 2 or 3. But if we recognize that we live in infinite possibility, if we recognize, as one of the further lessons says, that God is in my mind, God, the all, holiness, the infinite vastness of the universe is in my mind. If I have that in my mind, then I have access to more possibility than these puny little solutions from the past that were good for the past, but they're not necessarily good for now. I quote Joseph Campbell all the time here because I think it's just such a powerful awareness that the virtues of our past become the vices of our present. It's not that the past wasn't good. It's not that it didn't serve its purpose for that present moment. But here we are now. If we try to bring the past into the present, it becomes a vice. It becomes constraining and constricting. So that's why we let go of the past. That's why we let go of the past. What's also interesting to me when we think about this idea, again, of reconstructing a story, that we see only the past. This is why there's a tool that I love, and science is now backing this up, which I also love. You can rewrite any story. It's a powerful tool. If you've ever experienced something traumatic in your life, something very difficult, you can take pen and paper and spend a couple days just rewriting the story, retelling it the way you wish it would have happened. And again, because we're imagining it anyway, we're constructing it in the now, that becomes our present. Now, what has happened, what our scientific researchers have been able to do is actually look and see how the neural pathways actually change in the brain as a result of doing that. Breathe that in for a second, because I know we all have something. We all have something that we've held on to, or we tell the story over and over again, right, and keep that energy going on. Well, you can tell it differently. You can write it differently. Just spend 3 to 5 days doing that. The research has been awesome in the way that, I believe this particular study, they use college students. But in the way that you can change the course of your life by rewriting the past, and then also you can write the future, right? Because whatever we're thinking now, the thoughts that we're thinking now, is that which will create and sends out and creates our future, right? So when we're thinking thoughts of doubt and worry and, oh no, maybe you have a big presentation to do this week at work, right? And if you're fretting over that, that's going to be the energy that then you experience when you get there in the staff meeting and your PowerPoint presentation doesn't work, right? It's only because of what you created in the now. So why not write the story the way you want it to actually play out? I can't remember the title of the movie now. Maybe Pastor Yolanda can help me. There was this movie about this guy who wrote a book, and he wrote this story about sort of the woman of his dreams. And then all of a sudden, she showed up, like as a flesh and blood human being. And he was freaked out because she was saying everything that he had written, and she was wearing, the clothes that he said she would wear. It was freaking him out. But what I love about that idea, what I love about the idea of that movie is that it represents exactly what we do. The story of your life is the story that you write. And particularly if you have a traumatic experience, recognizing that we see only the past, well, let's recreate the past. Let's change it. Paramhansa Yogananda has a wonderful thought on this about memory. The first time I ever really heard anyone say something like this, that memory is a superpower. It's a divine gift. Right? It is a creative power, right? As we just talked about. When we recall something, we're reconstructing, we're recreating, we're making it anew. It is a power that we possess. But so often we use that power of memory to beat ourselves up. So often we use that power of memory to shame ourselves. So often we use that power of memory to prove that we're bad, to prove that we're wrong, to prove that we're prone to some way of being or some condition, right? But we can use the power of memory to speak well of ourselves. Because isn't it good to remember something good that happened, right? Isn't it wonderful when maybe you can walk past the smell of honeysuckle or roses and it immediately takes you back to some beautiful experience, maybe the first time you smelled that? Or better yet, my favorite thing is how I can hear a song from back in the day and it takes me right back to high school or it takes me right back to college, right? I love that. That's the beauty of memory. It recreates. It takes you right back there. But why would you use this superpower to take you right back to trauma, to take you right back to difficulty and disappointment, to take you right back to fear? We realize that we have a choice. We realize that we have a choice. So what is the remedy? We realize that we can't believe our eyes. I mean, is everybody convinced? We recognize now that we can't believe our eyes, that we need some mind training. We need to see life differently. What is the remedy? I was reminded of Bill W. and Alcoholics Anonymous, because I think the first 3 steps in AA speak to this so well. If you're not familiar with them, here we go. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So as we're here saying now, I can't believe my eyes, I realize that the body's eyes are limited. I realize that the body's eyes will only show me the past. I realize that the body's eyes will give meaning to things that might not even be the true meaning of it. I recognize that the body's eyes can put a man in jail and he was innocent. I realize that the body's eyes have put myself in jail and I was innocent. We begin to speak these words and we say that we admit that we are powerless. We admit that we don't know what we're seeing. First step, we admit that. And we realize that there's a need for training. But then we've come to believe that there's a power. There's something within us that is greater. God is in everything we see. That God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. That I am one with the all. That I am one with infinity. That I am one with possibility. And so I believe that there is a power not greater than myself, but that is the greatest part of myself, that will restore me to sanity, or as we're saying for this message series, that will renew my mind. And then today we make a decision to turn our will over to the will, which is also us. To turn our will and our lives over to the care of the God as we understood him, the God of our understanding. As Pastor Yolanda shares so beautifully every week, that we understand that God, this God that we're talking about, is not a God that's judging us. It's not a God that's outside of us. It is each and every one of us. All of us are individualized expressions of the one truth, of God itself. Just as if we took out 1,000,000 drops out of the ocean, each one of those drops would still be the ocean. That is what we are turning our power over to. And let's hear this, because we're not externalizing God. When I see you, I see the very face of God. When I see you, I see the very face of God. We are creators made like the Creator. And so, as we have taken this step, realizing that the remedy is to admit to ourselves that we can't believe our eyes. The remedy is to admit to ourselves that we may have been living according to illusion, to admit to ourselves that we have been applying meaning to things, that we have stood on the witness stand of our lives and declared ourselves anything less than innocent, anything less than free. I also recognize that in order to begin to see from a place of truth, in order to begin to see from light and with light, it requires us to get back to the present moment, which is what we've been talking about, right? We keep talking about this idea of memory and remembering and how that always gets us in trouble, right? It always gets us in trouble. So let's come back to the present moment. And this week, in my own personal study, I was taken back to Emerson's his first series of essays, Self-Reliance. And he writes something so beautiful here. He says, "But man postpones or remembers. He does not live in the present, but with a reverted eye laments the past, or heedless of the riches that surround him, stands tiptoe to foresee the future. He cannot be happy and strong until he too lives with nature in the presence above time." We can't be happy until we live just like nature lives, just like the birds live, just like the trees live, right? Just how everything else that is a reflection of our beauty and grandeur lives in the present above time. Not worried about the limits of time. Time is an agreement that is limited. But when you live above time, you recognize that you have power. And so because the present moment is where God resides, then we can step into the power of God is in everything I see. And God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And so I want to share this final thought with you. Again, it's from Emerson, and I just think it's so powerful to think about. He writes this. He says that we first share the life by which things exist and afterwards see them as appearances in nature and forget that we have shared their cause. Just hear that for a second. We first share the life by which things exist and afterwards see them as appearances in nature and forget that we have shared their cause. What he's saying is that before we inhabited these bodies, we knew without a shadow of a doubt that we were one with the all. We knew that we were powerful beyond measure. We knew that we were part of the cause. But once we incarnate into these bodies, then we begin to see everything outside of us as appearances and forget that we share in the beauty of the stars, that we share in the grandeur of the sun, that we share in the coolness of the rain when it falls, when we need it. We share in that beauty and that grandeur. And he goes on. Here is the fountain of action and of thought. Here are the lungs of that inspiration which giveth man wisdom, which cannot be denied. We lie in the lap of immense intelligence, which makes us receivers of its truth and organs of its activity. When we discern justice, when we discern truth, when we do nothing of ourselves, when we discern justice, when we discern truth, we do nothing of ourselves, but allow a passage to its beams. We do nothing of ourselves. Again, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. When we get to that place, we understand that there is something grander. It is you. Only 5% of you is here. There's a greater, grander 95% of you that wants to express itself as your life, but you have to allow it. And that allowing means stepping into this place of, I cannot believe my eyes. I've lived life according to what the feedback of my body's eyes said, and I realize now that that actually has a lot of problems with it. I recognize that when we live according to that, people go to jail when they shouldn't. I recognize that when we live according to that, we can't even recognize or see colors. We're just seeing blue for the last 4,500 years, which is not a lot of time. This existence goes on for billions of years. Known existence, anyway, right? Of this physical world. We've only been seeing blue for 4,500 years, and we think we know something about seeing. We don't. But we recognize that there is something within us. God that is in our mind is light. When you allow the light to shine on it, then we can see it clearly. Because what's interesting is when the light shines on it, love is shining on it. When the light is shining on it, kindness is shining on it. When the light is shining on it, compassion is shining on it. And so we begin to see it differently. And this is that's one of the 50 lessons. I want to see this differently. Above all else, I want to see this differently. This is where we're moving into. And the thing that I love about that, one of the core teachings of A Course in Miracles is that we recognize that every act, anytime somebody does something that doesn't feel good, every act of fear, every act that is unlike love, it's actually a call for love. But that's why we can't, use our body's eyes to make that determination, right? Because if I see two people on the street arguing, I don't see love. My body's eyes is not showing me love, but I recognize that each one of them is actually calling for love in that moment. Each one of them is hurting beyond belief, and they are screaming out through their anger and through their frustrated words, trying to receive, trying to get love, trying to let somebody know, please, I need some light. I need the light of truth to shine on me right now. Can you be the miracle worker that will allow the body's eyes to move to the back so that the light that is you, the light of God that is in your mind, to shine on that situation? That's when the miracle happens. On that, I invite everybody to stand, please. Let's stand. That is when the miracle happens. Because the miracle is and is not just unexpected finances. Yes. The miracle is and is not just getting engaged. The miracle is and is not just meeting a new partner or getting a new job. All of those things are the miracles. But what I know to be true, and if you've ever experienced it, you know it to be true, the miracle of healing in our relationships between our family or with our partners or with our spouses, that's a miracle, right? I know that there are people that have been in crazy abusive relationships and now live in a place of peace and harmony. That's a miracle, right? I know there are people that every week they dread going to work because there's so much tension between them and their boss, but that relationship shifts and changes and now they actually become good friends. That's a miracle. But what I know to be true is that in order for those miracles to take place, for those realities to become the reality of your life, you can't rely on the body's eyes. And that's all that faith is. Yes. Right? Faith does not rely on the body's eyes. Faith is activated when we turn off these eyes and go back within to our imagination, to what we think is possible, to what we want. Right? We're sitting here in Celebration Spiritual Center, which did not exist 2 years ago. It only existed in my mind and Yolanda's mind. That's it. So if we were creating this on what our body's eyes showed us, we could never do it. But we turned off the body's eyes. We said, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe what I see. But I'm going to use my internal eyes, my spiritual eyes, and create exactly what it is I want to see. And so, Mother, Father, God, we stand here now in this profound truth and this powerful awareness that our body's eyes are limited. Yes, they serve a purpose and a function, and we're grateful for them. But we recognize that in order to create as we want to create, in order to bring forth our desires, in order to bring forth vision, in order to bring forth miracles, in order to bring forth shifts and transformation, in order to bring forth healing, we must begin to turn away from what our eyes are showing us and go within and look at what you, who are in our minds, what you are showing us. Because we know that that is where our power is. We know that is where our strength is. And we even know that is where our joy is. We forgive ourselves now for each and every time that we have stood on the proverbial witness stand of our life and accused us of anything other than greatness. We forgive ourselves now for standing on the witness stand at any point if we've accused ourselves of being unworthy, if we have accused ourselves of being lacking, if we've accused ourselves of being poor and limited. We forgive ourselves right here and right now, and we take ourselves off of the witness stand. And because we are in control of our lives, we now move into the position of the judge, and we say, not guilty. Right here and right now, we move into the position of the judge and jury, and we say not guilty. We say that we are free. We say that we are abundant. We say that we are wealthy. We say that we are prosperous. We say that we are big. We say that we are awesome. We say that we are amazing. We say that we are the very light of God, that when we walk and where we walk, God walks. That where we walk and when we walk, divinity walks. That where we walk and where we walk, holiness walks. For we know who we are. We stand in that truth now, and we declare it over our lives. And as we have stood in this new awareness of who and what we are, as we are standing in this declaration to no longer believe what we are seeing with these physical eyes, but only believe what we are seeing and knowing with our spiritual eyes, we expect and know that powerful miracles will happen in our lives every day. We know that powerful miracles will begin to become just as normal and just as regular as the air we breathe. And we will be the examples. We will be the light on the earth, the light of the world, showing each and every one of our brothers and sisters what is possible. We stand in that awareness even now, knowing that as miracles are our birthright, miracles are the birthright of the world. We stand here not just wanting this goodness for ourselves, but we want it for everyone. For we are all entitled and we are all equipped to be great on this earth. We are so grateful, and we release these words now back into you, back into cause, to let it grow, to let it germinate, and let it come forth easily and effortlessly. Together we lift up our voices and we say amen, amen. Ashe. And so it is. So it is. Thank you, God.